Golden Road TV show. It's a Golden Road TV show. Well, bridging the past with today for a better tomorrow.
Golden Road explores the intersection of arts, environment, culture, health, peace, justice, science, and technology, paving the road for positive social change.
It's a Golden Road TV show. It's the Golden Road TV show.
Hello and welcome to Golden Road TV and Radio. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino. Thanks for tuning in. We've just celebrated our 2-year anniversary of showcasing the various individuals and organizations throughout Gold Country and the region that are really doing a lot to help make a difference in our world. We're going to get right into it. I'm really excited and honored to have an artist, visionary, man of many facets and perspectives and collaborations and projects here with me today to be able to talk about his upcoming event. And I want to welcome and introduce Ken Adams.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So yeah, let's get right into it. You have a really exciting project that you're doing Saturday, November 10th, and this is going to be up on the Ridge. But you're going to be showing the film Imaginatrix. Tell us a little bit about the film itself.
Well, it has a complicated title, The Imaginatrix, the Terence McKenna Experience, which is like 4 or 5 syllables more than it needs. But it's a movie about Terence McKenna, and it's a personal movie of hanging out with him for several years and talking about a lot of stuff while we were in the company of various plant teachers, let's say.
Well, I will say it's quite a provocative name. It definitely conjures a lot of imagery. And I know Terence was kind of a master of creating new language around consciousness and experiences. So how did you get involved in actually making the film? What was the catalyst for this to happen?
I first heard Terence's voice in an organic grocery store in Lower East Side in Manhattan. I was living there and being an artist, and I had just gotten a grant to buy a computer that would do video signaling, the first computers that you could use, an Amiga computer, at that level of personal computer to make videos. So I heard this guy Terence McKenna on the radio, waited to hear who he was, found out he was in California, and my lover and I, my girlfriend and I, got in our Honda Accord and drove to California to find him.
Wow.
And we found him very easily. The very first person I asked gave me his phone number, and I immediately called it, and I talked to his wife Kat, and she immediately gave me a secondary number at Esalen, and I called Terence, and he invited me to Esalen to talk about making stuff together. We moved to where he lived up in Northern California in Camp Meeker, Occidental area, and started working on psychedelic media of all sorts, and we were real active in the rave scene. We were early projectionists, and Terence was just getting involved with that kind of stuff. So that's where that all started. This particular movie I made after being away from the work for 15 years, and I wanted to go back and do a kind of a wrap-up. For one thing, technology was just amazingly improved over the years from before, and also I had all this unseen footage, and I thought it was worth spending the time it would take to pulling it all together and archiving it, and set out on making this movie. It took about 4 years to work on.
How interestingly symbolic, because I know Esalen, going back to being an Esalen Indian sacred spot and place for healing, and of course through the 60s a lot of very influential artists and luminaries hung out there and created art that really, I guess, is really a cornerstone of the whole 60s type of movement. So how apropos that you should meet him there. For people who don't know about Terrence, can you get a little bit of background of who he was?
Terrence is mostly known for being a psychedelic advocate, and he's a rogue intellectual as well as being a psychedelic advocate. So he wasn't so interested in institutionalized or pharmaceutical-oriented parts of the psychedelic package that's going through culture. He's a real renegade-oriented guy, and that appealed to me a lot. Kind of anarchistic, trusting yourself, be your own expert, and don't try to make a lot of money off of things like psychedelics because they're too important to be constrained by those concerns. So we were on the same page about a lot of stuff,
And he's written quite a few books too, right?
yeah, he wrote several books. My favorite is Food of the Gods, which is a history of the interaction of plants and society, like the influence of chocolate on Western culture. We essentially reinvented slavery as Europeans so that we could serve the addictions in Europe for chocolate and sugar. We actually reinvented slavery to be able to meet that demand.
Which is so interesting because those are like the opposites of natural occurring psychedelics. Of course, sugar and other things that are not only detrimental to the pineal but to our overall physiology. So a strange parallel indeed.
They say that sugar used to sell for a higher price than cocaine does today per pound. It was so rare and so valuable, and you had to cross an ocean in a creaky old wooden ship to bring it back. So that sort of stuff, I'm a sociologist by training, an anthropologist, and Terrence and I were really interested in social history and social movements. And the whole thing of doing this work together is we really believed that you can tilt history with devoted friendships that are working together and doing something for the greater good. We talked about that all the time, about how to tilt history, because there was so much crap going on, still is. And
So it's almost like Ken Kesey, Owsley, and the Grateful Dead, you know, just with that little triad and all the tentacles of that did and are still doing and affecting culture.
Terrence was deeply involved with the Grateful Dead, and they helped fund his career a little bit, helped him in other ways. And yeah, this is exactly what it was about. It was like a love and peace movement, and I think that's still the core of it for myself. If I'm going to preach anything, it's to preach that love is a good thing and we need more of it. And psychedelics are very dialed in on that part of the whole world and its possibilities.
And I'm a little bit familiar with some of Terrence's work. I know one of the pieces I heard him talk about is how they've traced the use of psychedelics in the evolution of civilizations and cultures around the world, and those that had more access seem to actually evolve. I mean, maybe not evolve faster, but evolved in different ways. You know, looking at cultures like the Mayan or the Aztec in places like Chichen Itza or in Peru and Colombia, and just the whole role of how psychedelics really are such a foundational part of the development of human civilization.
Yeah, there's a way of looking at this as though psychedelic plants from all over the world have been essential substances in the coherence of society and allowing it to be complexified and go forward. And those are good and bad things. I mean, you know, the Mayans and Aztecs may have been cutting out some hearts and stuff along the way, and who knows what other things. That said, there are no cultures, no substantial cultures that I'm aware of anymore that we don't know were using psychedelic substances as part of their formative culture tools. So I think it's really essential that our culture rediscovers this and re-embraces the psychedelic wisdom, because we're so up to our, necks in environmental catastrophe. I really believe in ecodelia as a new movement kind of beginning to be talked about, which is a convergence of psychedelics, deep ecology, where you see the environment as something spiritual and that animals and plants are your companions and not resources to be exploited. And the third element of the echodelia thing is the rediscovery of the divine feminine and the eroticization of nature. And so
Which isn't a new idea. This is kind of drawing so much from thousands of
cultures,
years.
yeah. So we have these older brothers and sister cultures out there that have been able to speak to us and touch our souls. As the ayahuasca movement, there's one thing I'm working on movie-wise right now is this thing that was this movement, a messianic movement from this area among the Indians at the end of the Indian genocide. There was a movement called the Ghost Dance religion, and it started for the vision during the solar eclipse at Pyramid Lake in 1889, which is within walking distance of where Burning Man is. And the guy had a vision, Wakova, that if you danced and chanted these chants for days at a time, sometimes you would be either possessed by a relative that had passed away, or be given transit to a paradisical world where the buffalo have returned and the white people have gone back to where they're from. And that got outlawed, and it got ended at a place called Wounded Knee, or pretty much ended, where they wiped out all these innocent people and put a bunch of people in prison. And into that vacuum, that ghost dance had spread all over the continent very quick. It was the first pan-tribal thing to happen. It was just a vacuum, and it just spread like fire. And when they wiped out the leaders and made it illegal, into that vacuum, a man named Quanah Parker, who was a famous Indian chief and basically became a peyoteist when he was saved from a fatal disease by an old lady and some peyote tea. So he became devoted to peyote. And they created the Native American Church for the Indians to get exemption to use peyote in their religious ceremonies. You fast forward a few decades and you have beatniks coming out of New York and San Francisco and Chicago and LA, and the only psychedelic anyone's ever heard of is peyote. And you can go down to Texas and buy it from the Native American Church people. So to my mind, there's a very direct link from the beginning of the ghost dance movement among the final things that the Indians could put together in response to the genocide, and it carries all the way through to the psychedelic awakening, and through the beatniks, to the hippies, to the ravers, to the people that are doing what they're doing today all over the world with these festivals. And
I know a lot of people in the Native community, I know they talk about the seventh generation, and they say that a lot of the potentially the spirits or the souls of these people that have gone through these genocides would actually come back or be reborn, and a lot of them might be in the forms of white people and different people. So it's really interesting to see how a lot of people are taking up more of, like you said, the interest in these psychedelic substances, which isn't a new idea, and a lot of people are getting back to more trying to balance the feminine and the masculine, and also they're rediscovering the importance of our relationship with the natural world. I know for some people these things can be scary. Oh, psychedelics, I know even people like John Lilly and research with mushrooms, and there's been such a short history of psychedelic research here in Western culture per se, post the indigenous people. But I know there's also a lot of organizations right now like MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Alliance for Psychedelic Studies, and others who are actually getting permission to starting to kind of more on the, as opposed to the pranksters, more the Timothy Leary path of like trying to use psychedelics more in a clinical, guided way to give people an experience and help with whatever it's depression or being bipolar. So it's really exciting because I do see a doorway opening of interest and starting to re-explore something that has been taboo for so long.
Oh, absolutely. There's really massive amount of work going on in the sciences and with MAPS and a couple of the Hefter Institute, a couple other places have gotten fast-tracked by the government for developing research protocols, especially with psilocybin and MDMA for post-traumatic stress and death anxiety among cancer patients. And that's all going to help a lot of people. I know a lot of people deeply involved in that. And then you also have this out of the institutional out of the lanes of institutional development. You have this festival system that's evolved all over the world, but especially in California, where there's almost uncountable festivals now going on, and the wide open secret of these things is that they're a safe place to trip.
Right.
And so you go to Burning Man and there are thousands of people tripping at any one moment.
Right.
And that's a big, big thing to be going on. I work with some first responders that I'm not doing it anymore, but I worked for several years with first responders at festivals in Burning Man to offer help for people that were having bad experiences on psychedelics and had maybe gotten lost, or their friends didn't know what to do with them, and they didn't want to get involved with the medical intervention parts because they would have to leave a paper trail of their being there.
Right.
And I learned a lot. And there's a lot of scary stuff involved in psychedelic world. People do have terrifying experiences at times, and if you have never had anybody help you understand the world of spirit, then when you run into your first dark journey into the Shadowlands, it can be pretty scary.
Yeah. 2-foot DMT can be fairly intimidating.
Yeah, definitely.
So I really enjoy talking with you and the fact that you're in our community. But let's get back to a little bit about this film. So you did a film. We have a little bit a sense of yourself and who Terrence McKenna is now. This film, Imaginatrix, is coming up on Saturday, November 10th at 6 p.m. It's going to be up at the North Columbia Schoolhouse, which is a great venue up on the San Juan Ridge. So can you give us a little more insight just to the film and what people can expect?
The film itself is like very experimental, very psychedelic, both in its content and its intention. And so it's very trippy. Almost everybody says they start tripping when they watch it. So you don't want to watch this movie while driving or operating heavy machinery.
Maybe you'll have seatbelts in the theater for people.
Almost every place I've showed it, people have ended up bringing out pillows and mattresses, and people like stay till 3 in the morning. You have to like sweep them out of the place.
Wow.
It's an experiential movie. It's not meant to be a documentary, and it's as much a weird psychedelic love story to a really good friend as
And
it
no
is
Kool-Aid
anything.
will be served. Okay.
I'm not doing refreshments.
Okay.
I have been to screenings where people were definitely passing out massive amounts of psychedelics, and that's been very interesting too.
Wow.
You find a community, like in Berkeley, there were screenings I had where people were definitely brought free psychedelics along for as many people as wanted, as much as they wanted.
Wow.
And it made it so interesting. People were so happy and laughing and doing mudras in the movie, and some people doing coyote stuff, and
Wow.
it was just wonderful. And that makes a lot of difference to an artist to be able to do something that
You're inspiring people.
yeah, it's fun. It's been fun, that part.
And if people would like more information on how to contact you or to find out more about the film, how could they do that?
Wow, there's a website for the place. It's under northcolumbiaschoolhouse.org, northcolumbiaschoolhouse.org, and come see the show and introduce yourself. I'm making new friends.
Fantastic.
We need to find each other.
All right, well, come on out on, again, Saturday, November 10th and experience, no need to imbibe, but experience an altered sense of consciousness and hear some of the audio of Terrence and get to experience some of the art of Ken Adams, another visionary artist here, at least currently in Gold Country. So we're going to try to figure out how to keep him around the neighborhood because we really like him. And again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Peace all.
tonight. And if you're open to it and quiet enough and present enough, we're going to invite you to come on a musical journey through different states of consciousness with us tonight. So we're just going to invite you all just to close our eyes. Just take one moment out of a hectic life, so much to do, so much to take in and absorb and express. We're going to invite you all just to close your eyes just for a moment. Just breathe and be present. Shake dreams from your hair, my pretty child, my sweet one. Choose the day and choose the sign of your day. This day is divinity. Vast radiant beaches, cool jeweled moons and couples naked. Race down by the quiet side, and yet you laugh like a soft, mad child, snug in the willowy cotton braids of your infancy. Put your hands together to the beat as we invoke. We bring in the spirit here tonight at Elixir. Because rhythm is a vehicle to harmonize, to unify. Choose we croon with these ancient ones. Choose we croon beneath the moon, beside some ancient lake. Journey further into the sweet forest. Journey into the hot daydream. The music and sound are all around you, all inside you. Everything is breaking up and dancing. visions. The past, the future, and the now collide head on. Awake. Mojo rising, Mr. Mojo rising, gotta keep on rising. I love the friends I have gathered together on this thin raft. Let us all construct pyramids in honor of our escaping. This is the land where the Pharaoh resurrected. Choose we croon with these ancient ones. Choose we croon beneath the moon beside this ancient lake. Indians scattered on dawn's highway bleeding. Ghosts crowd the child's fragile eggshell mind. Indians scattered on dawn's highway bleeding. Ghosts crowd the young child's fragile eggshell mind. Indian, Indian, what did you die for? Indian says, nothing at all. cross the river, across the veils of consciousness to the world between visible and the invisible. We're crossing the river. for this evening is not new. You've seen this entertainment through and through. We've all seen our birth, our life, our death. Certainly we can recall all of the rest. Did you have a beautiful world? Is it enough to be seen? Just when you thought it couldn't get any weirder. You guys having a good time? Maybe, yes, no. Indecisive? Feeling it out? Well, no matter, I want to thank the artist, the visionary artist. This is an incredible gift and resource for our community. He's worked with people like Terrence McKenna. A nice round of applause and acknowledgement for our visual artist tonight, Ken Adams. Thank you, Ken. You don't even have to do anything. No ayahuasca, nothing. Just come here, close your eyes, see the imagery, and hear the music. We're simplifying. So this is called Bombay Blues. We're going to travel now to some of the rich, lush tapestry of sounds from India.
You know what? No. I mean, I think you've brought a hobby into like a very three-dimensional shape. You brought a lot into fun, probably deserve money to help your mom. But I've never actually sat down and I will give 3 to 5 minutes to you. If that's cool, and then the rest one of these
It's a golden road TV show. Yes, it's a golden road TV show. It's a Golden Road TV show.com.
name is Tim Lewis, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm a third-generation Oregonian, and I've grown up here in Eugene. And a bunch of us have always thought about having a film festival, and nobody really got off our butts to really put in the heavy lifting. But Michelle and all these women have done that this year and put on the first annual Eugene Environmental Film Festival, and we're right in the middle of it right now, and it's kicking some serious butt, and it's amazing that this is happening in such a terrific way this weekend. Eugene is one of the best places in the United States to have an environmental film festival, because here in the Northwest there's still all these wild places, and Eugene is also at a base for lots of radical environmentalism, and that's been around here for decades. And so it only makes sense to continue on this annual environmental film festival here in Eugene that these women started. So everybody needs to come back next year in the second annual and have a great time, drink some beer, smoke some ganja, and party down and be enlightened by all these filmmakers' work. Thanks.
My name is Hap Kindom. I'm a retired filmmaker and film professor from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I'm here at the film festival because my film, Incredible Animals, Galapagos, was selected to be shown here. Had a wonderful time. It's a well-organized film festival. The people, and one of the reasons I'm here, because people like Michelle Eggers and others were very encouraging about coming, extremely helpful and outgoing. I've had a wonderful time. My film is entitled Incredible Animals Galapagos, a Wildlife Sanctuary. It's a film about how wonderful the animals throughout the Galapagos are, what incredible biodiversity we have, and yet how threatened it is by us, by humankind, both through climate change and the impact on food supply, the warming temperatures of the ocean, by visitors to the Galapagos like myself, and things that we bring with us, sometimes unknowingly, that are non-indigenous species of plants and animals that affect the indigenous animals in the Galapagos, and by fishing, overfishing, illegal fishing, and the extermination in the past and to some degree in the present of sharks and other species in the oceans. Great.
My name is Carolo Aparicio. I'm Executive Director of Ecoviva. Ecoviva is a nonprofit organization based in Oakland that is working at the intersection of environmental protection and economic justice. We work mostly in El Salvador and Honduras. So we're here at the film festival with a film that was directed by Jake Ratner, and it's called Resilience at the Roots. So Jake came down to El Salvador with us to film the story of this community-based initiative to protect and restore the mangrove forests of El Salvador. So that's how we got involved with the festival.
Have you gotten to see any other films since you got here?
Yes, I have gotten to see a few other films. I thought that the section that our film was in was really well crafted and curated. It really brought together the theme of the importance of wetlands and of wild places, and the interaction of people and community-based initiatives to protect these beautiful places.
So obviously a lot of people have been talking about the environment really going back to the early, for ancient times, but 1960s and the environmental movement. Of course, we had women's movement, civil rights movement. How do you feel this festival and the message of the environment is not only still pertinent, but even more important these days that you're committed to making these films on the topics?
Absolutely, and I also think that this conversation about the environment needs to really be inclusive and bring together all these different strands that you just mentioned. about the women's movement, about issues of economic justice, issues of fairness. And the environmental movement can't continue to live in isolation. It needs to bring in all of these different strands in order to really usher in a new era of really trying to preserve the environment and create a sense of economic justice for people.
So my name is Yolanda Gomez. I'm on the board of directors at Beyond Toxics here in Eugene, Oregon, and I'm currently an MFA student at OSU Cascades. So at the event today, we were holding space for an open mic and for environmental justice issues related to disability rights, food access, racial justice, things of that nature that are kind of generally left out of the conversation of environmental justice. It's not just, as I had mentioned earlier, about saving our bees and saving polar bears, but there are actual issues currently happening in Eugene, Oregon, just in our own neighborhoods that need addressing. So that's very important to me and part of the work that we do as an anti-racist organization. I think a lot of the times we think of the word diversity as being a part of environmental activism. It's not. It's very whitewashed. It's very exclusive. And if we could just bring it back into it being about black and brown issues and marginalized voices, actually privileging marginalized voices is key, I think, to creating change.
Right. All right. Thanks for your time.
Hi, my name is Dylan, and I'm here at the Eugene Environmental Film Festival. And our films are Plastic is Forever and Tipping Point.
My name's Dawn D. Hayes. I'm a producer. We have Rock Island Media, that's our company, and we helped Dylan produce these films. Dylan's a director and cameraman, and I taught him how to make these films as a school project. And amazingly, it's been in 35 film festivals around the world and translated into Spanish and Italian, and it is continuing on around the world in the Ocean Film Festival circuit.
And she's my mom.
And I'm Dylan's mom.
So, Dylan, you could make a documentary or film about anything. Why are you passionate about the topic you particularly picked on Plastic is Forever?
Well, I guess the main reason is my mom and I were driving up through the West Coast and like up through California, and while we were driving up, I was seeing a lot of plastic trash on the beaches and exhibits about it in the aquariums, and I got really stressed out and scared about it, and to the point I didn't even want to go into the exhibits. And my mom saw this, and she was talking to me outside of the aquarium, and she said, well, instead of being afraid, you should do something about it. So we decided to make a documentary film showing ways that kids in their daily lives can help stop the problem. Kids have a lot more power than they think they have, and our film is here to help inspire them and make them feel more confident to make the daily changes in their life to save the planet. Kids can save the planet.
Kids can make a difference.
Independence, a critical essence of life. I'm labeled DACA, working harder to provide. You gonna endanger me? Release the crocodiles and snakes. I make boots, belts, wallets, and jewelry just to get paid. You feel what you ain't, so you point and bang. Or so you point and bang. Addicted to the venom while the needles are kissing veins. An imbalanced brain that can't maintain. It screams and mours, it fiends for more. No freedom, man. It's hooked in the game, damn, I see its pain. I can't walk away. I gotta break the cycle. Negativity needs to be recycled. Antidepressants got you feeling down, don't be like Michael. Got you feeling psycho, what do I know? I'm just a kid from El Barrio, but I seen addictions, house evictions, fresh convicted, but it's not sufficient. They gather an army of dummies plus girls pretend to be barbers, it's like a lobotomy. I seen the way they make that money, selling pills has prescriptions. The richest land making bad decisions. But I'm in no position, but I see the vision. It's all about the money and the power. Making millions in an hour while no one souls devour. Let them scream louder. Now watch the crowd as it moves, brainwashing, I see that voodoo. But who knew this evil would trick me and you? Slaves to the paper, dreams become vapor. We puppets, the masterminds, don't pull strings, don't push buttons, but they still get paid. Then they goes into the hook. First things first, I'll always best myself. Restless when I see my eyes, it's always money on my mind. I gotta keep on grinding. I'm just a dirty diamond trying to shine. Money is mine, but my time is money. I'm hungry, starving. Funny, my battery is energized by a bunny. To keep going and going is my game plan, buddy. Honey is sweet, only if you got a squad of bees and a breeze to fulfill the queen's needs. Look here. Our bigger brother is the beekeeper, leaving us with nothing like the grain ripper. Let me tell you something, it gets deeper. We enslaved to this pay, minimum wages of waste. Routines are cut and paste, it's all the same. We're looking for that change. These days are strange. Black people are targets they aim, no one to blame. Now I'll show you how to spark fire to flame. And just like that, we getting paid.
Cool. My name is Colby Elliott. I'm from Northern California, and I'm a filmmaker. I have a film in the Eugene Environmental Film Festival, and it's been an awesome experience coming here. Everybody's super nice and super welcoming, and yeah, Eugene is a cool city, and I'm glad that there's something happening like this in the town. So.
And real quickly, what was your film about?
My film was kind of an abstract on the beautiful places that we get to see as kayakers, and so I'm a whitewater kayaker, and we get to go to some really cool canyons and some really cool places, and not everybody gets to see those places, so that was kind of my take on some cool canyons and places that people don't get to see every day.
Hello, my name is Elke Dur, and I'm here at the Eugene, Oregon Environmental Film Festival with my film Bison Nation Walking Sacred Sites. And I'm very thrilled because it's an environmental film festival, so my film really fits very well because it's about the last migratory bison in the Northern Hemisphere, and that is a topic that's very pertinent for right now because these animals are still instinctual and they know where they're going, where to find water, and they're very important to the native people. So having them back and their return is very inspiring and exciting for the challenges we are facing right now.
How did you get interested in being a filmmaker?
I've seen nature and wildlife documentaries before, even as a child or as a young adult, and I never liked the way they were being done because it was about the animals, with us at the top of the pyramid talking about them and interpreting their lives through our cultural lenses, and I never liked that. The kind of do, Mama Wolf is mad because Papa Wolf came home late last night. So I decided to not do that and to do my own wildlife documentaries with the animals as a co-production. So the bison film, as my wolf film that I did about the Mexican gray wolves, are examples of that. It's a co-production.
So in the time we have, I know that you work in your film, you talked a lot about communicating as a narrator from the perspective of the buffalo,
yes,
or the bison.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit about the time we're in, animal communication, and what message are these animals wanting to impart to people?
Yeah, this is a beautiful question. Thank you so very much. I've been an animal and all life form communicator my whole life. And I'm taking it straight from the horse's mouth, basically. I'm not interpreting anything. So the animals, with the bison film, I had been migrating with them and tenting on the prairie forever, and I was really ready to finish the film, but the message I got from them was, you're not getting it yet, wait a minute. So what I did was I meditated, I got out of the way, and I wrote the script. And afterwards I cried because I could have never written that script. because what they really wanted was they wanted to tell their own story, and that's what happened. I know that I'm not the only one communicating with the animals and other life forms, but it hasn't been culturally very much accepted in the past. So I encourage everybody who does have a connection to the animals and the natural world and who is communicating with that world to keep going and to know that it's real and to not feel strange about it, and to really hone in on those skills because they're very much needed. So if you are an animal and species communicator, as I call it, please keep going. They're reaching out to us right now. They want to be with us and they want to impart their wisdom. And it's very much needed because they have been around a lot longer than we have, and they have been through a lot of climate change and through a lot of changing worlds, and they know what they're doing. So it's important to talk to them.
My name is Steve Connolly. I'm a teacher at Echo High School, and this is a poem about NAFTA. I got the neoliberal blues, I'm busting out cues, I'm writing my rhymes and I'm paying my dues. I gotta take this rhyme, I'm headed straight for the border. Skinny wages head south for social disorder. Young girls free to work hard, her brothers playing in shit in new millennium homes. Can you get with it? The fat corporations flat script that law with their culture box junk. Yo, did you see what I saw? Supreme Court nod and G-Dub with the slack jaw. They got it all sewed up with one big flaw, and that's you and me in our community. Flexing fat rhymes will force history. The metaphor is our weapon of war. We can't sit down, our feet are sore. We're gonna rise up with one big voice and tell the people, yo, you got a choice, cause your hard work paid for his Rolls Royce. Now I wanna claim that I'm a media bandit. I swing a metaphoric left and I landed. They got the poor people solo, they planned it. They took Hitler's playbook and they flat scanned it as the neoliberal soldiers protect the priests' riches with Friedman, Pinochet, and Reagan in stitches. They call it free trade, but it's a vicious charade. Folks working really hard, they barely get paid. They got border town street sewage on parade. Yo, there ain't nothing free about your market. Take your broke dick philosophy and park it. This whole system is poison to their culture. Each dirty factory is a soul mulcher. Each corporation is just a vulture as we poison the lives of the people with brown skin. If you say it ain't so, I gotta ask you where the hell you been, surrounded by the product and living in sin. That's it.
Hi, my name is Melissa Padron and I'm here with the Eugene Environmental Film Festival at the headquarters, helping people figure out which venue to go to, which workshops they might like to come see, and just giving people directions on how to get around the festival.
And what inspired you to help, be here and volunteer time, and why is it important to get the public to see these films?
Well, there's so many amazing films this time around, and this film festival has just so many amazing workshops. I think it's a great idea for people to come out and support their local community, local artists, and learn what's happening throughout the world as far as environmental crises that are happening, so that we can all come together and help each other solve those problems.
All right, thanks.
My name is Sarah Cantrell, and I'm a social worker and have dedicated much of my professional life to assisting folks in growing their own food in community gardens to increase their healthy food as well as improve their mental health. And just really enjoying the Environmental Film Festival and the importance of looking at environmental issues and how they intersect with social justice all around the world.
And my name is Tassia. I'm an artist from Nevada County, California. Came up here because the brainchild, or the head of this film festival, is a friend of mine, and I wanted to show her some support. We also have a film festival in our community that I think inspired her to bring the same idea to Eugene. And I couldn't be more proud of her for what she's accomplished in her first year.
And going back to you again, each one of you, in 10 words or less, say something about the festival itself. Why would people want to come here?
The festival features films from all around the world with filmmakers and other people who've been involved in creating important messages about the environment and humans. And it's just a wonderful event to experience and learn about other places and your own community.
And I agree. It showcases films by independent filmmakers that you would not have the opportunity to see anywhere else. And the messages that they bring forward are, they get you. They get you right in the heart. And you leave here feeling uplifted and feeling hopeful that we can make a difference in the future. Each of us can participate in a very small way and collectively make a big difference.
One of the things that I think is special about the Eugene Environmental Film Festival is how welcoming it is to filmmakers. And one of the things I found most impressive is how welcoming it's been to young filmmakers and making a special place for youth environmental and activist films. And it's been fun to meet some of those people and to interact with them and to see how broadly based the interest in environmental films in Eugene is.
Hi guys, I'm Anna, co-director of the Eugene Environmental Film Festival, and I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for coming. We had a great turnout. We were super excited to honor these artists, these filmmakers, and getting their word out, to bring everybody out of their own individual silos of environmental work and come together to connect and to unify in our mission to help the environment. We really had a great time. It was a great learning experience, and we gained so much insight and knowledge into the work that's being done and the powerful people that are doing it. So we're really excited about it. We're really enthused, and we're optimistic about next year. So thank you everyone who came, and also we can't wait to see you next year. Thank you so much.
So I'd like to just welcome everyone to our spring 2018 event. And I know some of you are here to speak. Others here might just be here to break bread. Others are here to share music. But even more importantly is the work that we're all doing in the community, and that we've used these quarterly events to help showcase the individuals and organizations that are doing great work throughout the Sacramento River watershed. So really quick, welcome all of you. Thank you for coming out on a beautiful spring day. And my name is Michael DiMartino, and really quick, about 18 months ago I started a television and radio show called The Golden Road. And it actually is one of the things that brought me from Santa Cruz up to the Nevada City area, which I love deeply, along with a lot of the area here in California and along the foothills. So I started to do a weekly television and radio show to focus on and highlight the individuals and the people and the organizations that were doing great work here all around preservation of natural resources, around arts and education, which of course is a very essential nutrient for enhancing our quality of life, for subjects around economic development, and also some of the things dealing with restoration, helping to repair some of the damage that's been done to the area over the last 150 years. And we have a great speaker who's going to talk a little bit about that later. So after 18 months of doing the TV show, which is on TV every week in 10 different counties, Nevada County, Auburn, Placer, up in Truckee, Tahoe, Sacramento, here in Butte County, also up in Redding, which is Shasta County, and all the way up to Mount Shasta, which is Siskiyou County. So we have produced over 50 different shows that have shown over the last year, and have had over 300 different organizations, businesses, and individuals come through the show. Well, what's exciting besides just doing the show and helping to educate people about what's happening in our community, and also being the voice of independent media, it's really not too difficult without looking too far. That so much of the media right now is just entrenched in politics and bad news. So we're trying to not only bring good news, but also trying to build bridges with people that are doing work in our community. So this particular tour this spring, and we'll be in a few other towns, we're doing because when we did the fall tour here and other locations, it became obvious the need for people to be able to connect, right? And not only because we live in a world of so much technology where everybody's really engrossed, you know, they call them the generation below, where everybody's just looking at their cell phones, their computers, their technology. We've lost the human connection, but we've also have a certain level of cognitive dissonance, which is unable to let us to see each other and to really see the issues that are affecting all of us and the quality of life here, not just in California, but around the world. Obviously, I could talk about that for a long time, but I won't, because we have many great speakers and musicians here to share today. But the idea of doing today is we're launching just a couple weeks ago what we call the Source Directory. And this was started as a project that was think tanked last fall in this very room between myself and Payon Riles, who is a civil engineer in Nevada County and does many other things, and other people who thought it's time to really make a change. It's time to know who's doing what and to give people ideas of what they can do to make a difference in their community. Whether it's, hey, let's make Nevada County a GMO-free county. Hey, let's talk about the issues of glyphosate and Roundup and the detrimental health impact that it's having in our communities. Let's talk about things like emergency preparedness. Of course, a lot of this area just had really terrible wildfires that caused a lot of destruction that didn't have to happen if alternative forest management skills were utilized. So a lot of this can seem very scientific and brainy or things that you might not be interested in, but it really is about bringing the grassroots of our communities together, because the system that's in place and some of the techniques that it's using are not working. So I'm really happy to have Ali Metters-Knight here, who's going to talk a little bit from the indigenous perspective of the way things have been done pre-150 years ago, before colonialization. And other people are going to come. We have Blake here, who's going to speak from the Chico Peace and Justice Center, and others. So I don't want to sit here and just babble, because it's a really great program. It's not going to be all talking. There's going to be some music, some team building exercise, and some food. But we'll be here for a couple hours to continue laying the foundation stones to help build bridges in our community. And when I say our community, as I've learned through the Golden Road show, it's not just the little neighborhood where I live in Nevada County. It's really this whole area that we call the Sacramento River watershed, which extends from Truckee, Tahoe, all the way up to Mount Shasta and the headwaters of the Sacramento River, of course the Feather River, the Yuba River, and extends all the way down through Central Valley, all the way through Redding, down to Sutter Buttes, to to Sacramento and Davis, and then back up through Nevada County and up to Tahoe, Truckee. This is the Sacramento River watershed area. And this is really the lifeblood of California. It provides about 80% of all of the water for California. So I'm not here to be political or to just say my opinions are right or wrong, but we're here to share our voices and to talk about these things, and even more importantly today, to let you know about the source directory. We have already, I think, about 500 people in the directory that are all doing great work. Arts and culture, health, the environment, peace and justice, and even people who are working with science and technology to help give us some alternative ideas. Last thing I want to say, one of the exciting things, because I can get up here and be doom and gloom, is I found out yesterday that actually California just hit the 50% mark of how it generates most of its electricity from solar. So, you know, there's some rays of hope out there, there really is, but it's good that we talk about the problems, it's good that we share ideas and innovations, and we do this a couple times a year, usually in the spring and fall here and throughout the watershed area. So I won't keep babbling, there'll be cards on the table. 52-hour shows of Golden Road TV are now on YouTube. We're podcasting it around the world, and I don't want you to think that just about the quantity of people in the room, that is affecting the gravity of the changes and the things that are happening already through the directory, including a 270-acre resiliency and environmental education center in McLeod. That was the old Nestle plant. That in a matter of a few years, he's turned it from something that looked like hell on earth to an amazing center doing river restoration, doing green projects, and doing a lot of incredible events. But he was here in the fall, this is the spring, so we'll be here now. We have some great speakers today. Ali Metters Knight from the Machupta tribe, thank you so much for honoring us and being here. Kevin Danaher, who is one of the co-founders of the Green Festival, quintessentially one of the largest truly green and ecological festivals in the world that has happened. So we thank you, Kevin. We know you're busy. Thank you for joining us. And Blake's here from the Peace and Justice Center. We have others, and we're going to have some great music today with Brandon Daniels, who's going to, we call him the human jukebox. If you have a song, he probably knows it and might play it. And of course, Hands of Fire, which is with Peter DiMattei, who's here all the way from Truckee to share his music and inspiration and support, because we all know that arts and culture is an essential ingredient to this area, to the regenerative and sustainable economic development. And again, recently, Redding, Truckee, Nevada City, and Wairika and San Rafael just received national recognition for arts, culture, and history. So these places are now on the map. So, you know, our secret jewels of this area are being discovered. So it's really up to all of us to guide the future, to share our vision, and to do it on a grassroots level to make sure that we preserve the quality of life and the environment that we have here throughout the Sacramento River watershed. And you'll hear a little more, excuse me, about that. We're also taping, and it will be broadcast next week on cable TV. And again, thank you so much, all of you, for coming out today. There's so many other things you could be doing, and there's so many distractions to keep us from coming together and making change. And speaking for myself, it might be a little political, I am not counting anymore on the system that created all these problems to be the solution. It really has to come from the hands of people who are concerned about their children's health, their family's health, and about their ecosystem, about their environment, food, water, security, all of these issues, quality of life. So in that way, it really, truly does come home and affect us all. So again, thank you for being here. And as always, with our events, we always invite representatives of the indigenous community to show up. And a nice round of applause, and I really do thank her. She has some exciting work. Ali Metters Knight from the Machupta tribe.
Hey, tonight, thank you. Mechoopda Indian tribe. Now I just want to let you know, Mechoopda is a pronunciation that was changed. The original way of saying the name is Mechoopda. Mechoopda is a description of the people based on where they are in the watershed. When the snow melts, it gets wet. It's the swamplands. That's what it means. When the snow melts, it gets wet. Mechoopda. Now, when the settlers came here, colonization, and we're going to say, here around the 1830s, there was a big flood, wiped everybody out just after the gold rush. Northern California, every 200 years, there's a massive flood. This knowledge is called traditional ecological knowledge. This is a traditional piece of knowledge. Every 200 years, Northern California floods. There is a Pineapple Express like no other. There is a river above the sky, and it cleanses it. This cleansing is necessary for the watershed because we also have one of the biggest deltas in the world sitting in Sacramento, our watershed. So I worked for Kids and Creeks here in Chico for a little over 10 years, maybe close to 15, teaching watershed to children. And in order to teach watershed to children, I identified as Mechoopda and clarified it's Mechoopda. I am from the watershed. This is my name identifies me to my watershed. It would be nice that California would decolonize itself and start also naming places based on where it is in the watershed. Unfortunately, these systems don't rely on the ecosystem. It's very political. And so for most of the time when I'm teaching children at Kids and Creeks, I also have to tell them about the history of how California was made. I have to explain to them how many Native people were here. In this area, you're looking at about 250,000 natives. Today, we are very low. We make up less than 1% of the population in Chico. And the history of that is reflective, and it's aligned, it's congruent with a bunch of other species and plants and things that are also not here, including our riparian zone, which is ironically part of the watershed here. And so how identical that we as a people and we as a population have dwindled down to the same as the most precious parts of the watershed that make up the ecosystem of this area and of the river and the creeks. There are salmon who go up 2 creeks here, but there are so many unhealthy creeks left here in Chico because of development and because there hasn't been enough knowledge of what a healthy creek and river is supposed to look like for the last 40 years. And so that's why I was so passionate to teach the children. And I had to go right back to before it got messed up, when it was running right. And I had to dispel the myth that it was wilderness, that we were hand-to-mouth natives, that we were so primitive and undeveloped, we would wake up underneath a tree or in our little hut, and we would go, what are we going to eat today? And we'd just go out looking. Like, no. There was always systems, and there was land management. For 10,000 years, we burned this landscape in a systematic way to control forest garbage, to control species. All the native plants became fire healthy. They loved the fire, it was healthy for them. But for the last 180 years, since we've had colonization here, fire has been used as only a tool to accommodate a system that doesn't understand, ecology. So I'd have to redirect children to look at colonization as primitive and undeveloped. And it was politically controversial, but it was the only way for me to let them understand that there is a huge difference between how land was managed by the indigenous folks here for 10,000 years versus what has been done in the last 180 years with the colonization. So that brought me full circle to talk to children about decolonization and decolonize our way transportation, decolonizing the way we eat, decolonizing the way we live. And some of these things are unpalatable when we're looking at a very leftist idea to a rightist idea. But they seem to be applicable when we're looking at how to do damage control to the traumatic behavior we have done to our environment. And so this is very attractive to children. I've always been very, very, very adamant to let them know that they have every right and they are empowered to decolonize themselves and decolonize their minds and the way that they look at this area. And one of those ways too is that it was not all the management that took place in this area for thousands of years. What it did was it brought the healthy ecology into a way we could manage and track it, so that it's what scientifically is called traditional ecological knowledge, or simply TEK. And many times TEK is something hard to explain. And I had a conversation earlier about it, and the best way I'd put about it is that traditional ecological knowledge is really about the watershed, migratory patterns of birds, animals, wolves, bears, cougars, everything. Tracking, understanding what's in your environment, plants, what zone you are in on your geography. It's all about geography. So usually TEK, traditional ecological, or they call traditional practitioners, they are, their college education, they have degree in geography. And so when I teach this traditional ecological knowledge, I've had to divert from being mystified to being a spiritual being, a medicine woman, sharing this. Because traditional ecological knowledge is an actual science. It's actual science. It's just basically a study of an ecosystem and what's there and what to do to improve the quality of life, not only for humans, but for all the beings, and for the quality of water. And this process was, I discovered that I had to pull away from all of the ideas and notions that explained the traditional ecological knowledge was about a talking coyote or a talking bird who fixed and did something, or a turtle that made the earth. These stories are part of our tradition and culture. There may be inside of these stories patterns that explain how to look at something in a very elusive way that we don't think of in a colonized mind. So those are not applicable to colonized mind to use. But it is applicable to, and very interesting, to take a colonized mind, decolonizing, and then go back to a colonizer and try and pull them on my side. So that's been my side of working in the environment and being activist here and working with children. So part of my coming here today was first to declare this as this is occupied territory in the Mexica Indian tribe here in Chico. And part of my goal, and to share my goal always, is that this knowledge, this traditional ecological knowledge, is spread, is used in our tribe, is documented, is more solidified, so that we can work together as teams in the community to train people, to train other tribal nations if they want to come in within our territory. Anybody that comes into our territory can go through a land management course and traditional ecological knowledge. And that these training courses on how to manage lands through burning, through gathering, through hunting, through migratory patterns, all of these things are put together. And then when we manage lands here, water, that they become a function of how Chico works again, reintroducing these traditional ecological practices, these traditional practices of land management back into our community, make them very normal. And that also brings the tribes into a place of political arrangements that we all know that in California, most all the land was stolen as a state. Every treaty was not ratified. Right after they wouldn't ratify the treaties, they went ahead and issued bounty on every native head. And you could make money being an Indian killer, $5 a scalp. And the average wage in California was 25 cents a day. So it was a big score. And if you didn't want to kill them, they were also on the slaving market. So we have a lot of John Sutter, John Bidwell, the Kelsey brothers, just to mention a few that were, and they're still glorified today, but they were the same settlers that came in through and capitalized on the market of native heads. And this capitalization really pushed, also was horrible for the environment. We lost all of our clams. We had freshwater clams in all these creeks. And after every one of these creeks and all these rivers, and I think I don't know one that has not been dredged here and mined for gold. So we are all in a restorative process. So my goal is that the tribes have not only a say-so, but everybody is integrated in that say-so. Everybody thinks it's very normal to use traditional ecological knowledge to sustain a healthy ecosystem. And that becomes just general knowledge of something that's taught to children in schools. It should be taught to community members, it should be on television, and it should be on the radio. And I really am honored to be a part of that. And I'm really grateful that the tribe taps me on the shoulder for these events and says that it's good to hear a Metuta tribal woman speak and claim my territory, claim my space, and to do it for the tribe. But most of all, I really want to make a difference in this ecosystem because I have too much knowledge in my mind and what I've seen go wrong that I have to be part of the solution. But thank you so much for letting me speak. I really appreciate it.
Wow, thank you. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker here in a moment, but before I do, I just want to reiterate the importance of all of these broken factions of community coming back together to help kind of regenerate a healthy society. And of course, a lot of that starts with the Native community. And a friend of mine recently came back from Australia and I saw that actually in Australia there's been a great effort towards reconciliation towards the Aboriginal people and a lot of the stuff that's happened here. So I think more and more we're moving to that point, but I really appreciate you being here and speaking. And I know we're going to be doing a lot more together because part of these social events is not just education, but meeting people and building and strengthening an alliance to create this source directory, but also to start looking at various projects that affect us all. It was amazing, last week I just was in Shasta and I met the gentleman who is, and this will affect you guys up in Truckee, who just got the contract to widen the Truckee River. So there's an organization called Streamwise that's working on that. And already through the source directory and these socials, Puyom and I have also already been connecting people that are starting to work together to make a difference. And I'm not saying this to pat ourselves on the back because it's really about the community, but we find that these social events, it's not how many people show up, but it's the people who show up and the networking, the conversations that happen, and to be able to take this and broadcast this through 10 counties on cable, TV, and radio it's pretty powerful. So, and you're all a part of that. So, the next person I would like to introduce is from Nevada City, and he's a civil engineer, but he does a lot of different things, and he actually helped when we did the Fall Resiliency Tour, which we did here in Nevada City and some other counties. We were up in Mount Shasta. We met with people from the city government, the Chamber of Commerce, people from the Forest Service who are also in the Klamath consulting with the Native community about how to take care of the forest and the rivers. So again, these are rays of hope. We're starting to see some change. So I don't want to be too wordy again today. We're trying to keep this as a light social event, but really take on some things that are affecting all of us. I don't know if you guys know, but Donald Trump, whether you're a fan or not opposed, just proposed doubling the size of the Shasta Dam. Recently, the Weed Board of Supervisors okayed Crystal Geyser come in and tap the headwaters to sell bottled water. So we're doing these things because You've all heard of the Dakota Access Pipeline, right? And the water protectors and the movement of people that came there from all over the world. And it's happening here in our own backyard. And a lot of people are not even aware of that. So we're not here to say what's right or wrong or to be on a political pulpit and push a particular agenda. We're just here to say, hey, let's all wake up and take a moment to prioritize our own quality of life in this community and starting in our own backyard. So again, thank you so much. And on that, I'd like to introduce the co-founder of the Source Directory. I'm actually doing a permaculture class with him right now with Cathay Fish, but a nice round of applause for Payom Riles from Grass Valley.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks everybody for coming. My name is Payom Riles. I'm a water resources engineer, work for Stantec Consulting. I'm here today to represent the Alliance for Resilient Communities, which is an organization that acts as an umbrella for people from other organizations or just individuals to come together to talk about what we might need to do to increase the resilience or the functionality of our area to make it stronger. And that can be in the form of providing resources that support projects that are already going on, or to talk about projects that maybe aren't going on, that should be going on, and trying to figure out how to make that happen. The first project that ARC has participated in is in collaboration with Golden Road TV and radio shows, the Source Directory, to get the people in our region, our bioregion, together, say, okay, who's working on what? Are we doing all the things we need to be doing? Are there holes? Are there people that should be talking to each other? So, so far we're really pleased. I mean, events like this are always so inspiring. So there's a lot of, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the directory, but there's different main categories in the directory that, cover a lot of the things Michael covers in his show. Arts and culture, science and technology, he's talked about a little bit of that. Today I'm going to talk about something that I think is an important message to get out to people, which is about science. And specifically about science literacy and citizen science. And science literacy is just, regular, average, everyday people, their understanding of science and scientific topics, scientific processes. How do we use science in our everyday lives? Why? Why would we want to use science to make decisions? Why would we want to do a study before making policy changes? Why would we want to know what the effects of that might be? Why would we want to look back and see, it's important for regular people to understand the importance of science. And citizen science is where regular, everyday people go out and do actions or work on projects that support scientific research. More and more I see organizations who are trained volunteers to test their water quality, or doing these things called bioblitzes, where people go out and do an inventory of what they find in a park or in a watershed or in a certain area. And that data, whether it's people looking at what kind of birds they see or what kind of plants they see, and then creating a data set that they give to a researcher, that researcher now has a bigger data set than they could have got on their own, or they would have had to do a lot more funding to get that. So that's beneficial to the scientists who are doing research, but it's also beneficial to the citizens themselves because it increases their scientific understanding of what's going on in their region, and they have an active role